Justin Herbert has had an incredible start to his career, from Rookie of the Year in his first year to a Pro Bowler in his second year. So what makes you think that he doesn't have the opportunity to be an MVP type player in year 3? Not only this past year was he in candidacy for a good portion of the first half, 3/4 of the season, but not only does he have an opportunity to grow more and develop more, but this team has been built around him in the hopes for a deep push into the playoffs. And normally when you have a team that's able to make a deep push in the playoffs, that also leads to guys on the team being MVP candidates and possibly winning it. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, why I believe Justin Herbert is in the perfect position to win MVP this coming season. But if this is your first time on the channel, my name is John. This is the Sports Advocate. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. It means a lot to me. If you enjoyed this content, give me a like. If you really enjoy this content, why not subscribe? I make content daily, NBA, NFL, and NHL. And I know that a lot of you guys are coming back daily anyways. So just, if you want, just scroll down a little bit and check if you are subscribed, because I would really appreciate it. But nonetheless, let's not waste any more of your time on that. Let's get right into this. Justin Herbert, a Pro Bowl candidate for this year. Why do I believe that? And what is the key reason why this year is the year? Well, the first reason is improvement. The Chargers receivers last year had one of the worst drop rates in the entire league, and that goes for everyone from Keenan Allen, who has some of the best hands in the league, from Mike Williams, who was an incredible 50-50 ball catcher, and plenty of other guys in the middle like Austin Eckler, last year Jared Cook, and now this year you bring in some new guys. Not only that, but it's not very likely that in 2 back-to-back years, a roster that is as capable and receivers that are as star-studded as Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who both had over 1,000 yards receiving last year, it's not likely that we see this team have one of the worst drop rates again. Now, some of that does come down to the receivers, but some of it does come down to the quarterback, Justin Herbert. And who knows, maybe he's throwing a little bit too much power behind the throw. Maybe they're, looking upfield a little bit too early. I'm not exactly sure, but the likelihood of seeing this roster be that low again, I just don't believe it. Not only that, but the O-line has improved dramatically in the past 2 seasons. Last year it improved tremendously, but even this year, you bring in Zion Johnson in the draft, you bring in Jameer Sawyer in the draft as well, you bring in some depth pieces like Will Clapp, and you have guys on this roster already in Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley who are already Pro Bowlers, and some more guys who can develop further. Matt Filer, good piece, can play multiple positions. He's definitely going to develop. Trey Pipkins has possibly developed and keep his starting spot at right tackle. Zion Johnson, a lot of people believe to be a Pro Bowler. Not only that, but look at all the depth that this roster has on that O-line. The roster improved a lot. The O-line improved a lot, and a better O-line means more time in the pocket for Justin Herbert, which means more time to go through his route progressions. If he doesn't see an opening right here on a slot route, he can look to this in route from his tight end, or look deep into a post route or a go route on his outside wide receiver, his X wide receiver. You have the ability to progress further and develop the play and let it continue instead of being pressured like he consistently was these past 2 years. I think his rookie year, it was him and Russell Wilson that had the most yards in the entire NFL that were under pressure during it. And now you bring an O-line that's going to allow him, we've already seen that he can do well under pressure, whether it's someone blitzing him or in a really tight game such as the Raiders game. Now you give him more time and an ability to find these receivers that are very, very good. It's going to lead to better things, more yards, more touchdowns, all this thing. Not only that, the O-line helps the run game. And if the run game is better, that's going to take pressure off of your passing, Justin Herbert, because the defense isn't going to be able to predict things. They're not going to be able to run a certain type of zone every single time. They're not going to be able to send blitz packages all the time and put pressure on Herbert, because if the run game's doing well, these other pass-orientated defensive schemes are going to get washed out. They're going to have to convert to the run when the run's doing well, which is going to allow the field to open up more for Justin Herbert, which is only going to lead to better things. Also, one key point that I want to bring in, I've talked about development for players. So, like, for example, I have a video up that was my 4 offense side of the ball and maybe it was 5 offense side of the ball. I'm not quite sure. There's one of those 4, one of those 5 for offense and defense who I think will be the breakout players on each side of the ball for the Chargers. And a couple guys on there I have is Joshua Palmer, Donald Parham Jr., and Jalen Guyton. You got tight end, 2 wide receivers there. You got a speed guy in Jalen Guyton. You got a young, kind of does it all in Joshua Palmer, and a big tight end in Donald Parham. All these guys still young, still have time to develop, and will likely be a big part of this offense alongside Keenan and Mike. Not only that, but you bring in Gerald Everett, who is a solid guy, getting yards after catch yards, which will allow, again, more yards for Herbert. Not only that, though, you have Joe Lombardi, who is the offensive coordinator, as well as Coach Staley, who are in this team another year. Last year for both of them was the first year. Now they have another year with the team. They understand the players better. When they understand the players better, they'll be able to scheme around the players instead of just putting a scheme, make the players do it. Players have another year in the system. There was a conversation, an interview with Justin Herbert, in which he said that Joe Lombardi's offense was so much information to take in a 1-year span that he still couldn't fully comprehend it. And that comes from a guy who had a 4.0 average at Oregon and is incredibly smart and picks up things very fast. And he said that about Joe Lombardi's offense last year, and that he only understood about 50 to 75% of the offense. Imagine how much better this offense will look this next year now that not only the players have more time in it, but also the coaches will be able to develop it more around the players' best attributes instead of just this is what normally works for most teams. So coaching, have another year with the team, which goes both ways, is going to help a lot. And lastly, development. We've talked about it with players and coaches. Herbert gets another year of development. 3 years in the league. This is normally about where quarterbacks break out if they don't break out right away in that rookie year. This is a very common thing. We see Lamar Jackson, who I believe was his 3rd year when he got MVP. It might have been his 2nd year. I might be switching that. But a lot of times, year 3 is about when most quarterbacks start breaking out, really coming into themselves and being consistent. That's exactly where Herbert's at. I expect him not only to continue to progress from where he already is, but to really solidify himself as that guy, this leader on this team. I know when he was coming out of college, everyone was like, this guy's not a great leader, but I think he's already proved that wrong, and I think he's only going to further solidify that. But one thing that we should quickly kind of talk about here is last year's stats for Justin Herbert. For one, he was a Pro Bowler. I think we all know that, and some people argue that he should have been in his first year, but that's not a relevant point at this moment. He was a Pro Bowler last year. The Chargers went 9-8, led by Herbert, who started in every single game. Herbert had 5,014 passing yards, 38 passing touchdowns, and a 65.9 completion percentage. All very good numbers. Number 2 for passing yards, number 3 for touchdowns. Very good statistics. Herbert was doing incredibly well and was in the MVP conversation for a good portion of the year until the Chargers started going downhill. Now, he also did have 15 interceptions. You would like to see that go down. It's still a 2-to-1 ratio, which is good and all, but you'd like to see it get to 3-to-1. It's right in the middle right now, but you'd like to see it get to 3-to-1 or even, get as good as Rodgers is with like 4-to-1 ratios for his entire career. 15 interceptions, you like to see that go down, but it's not terrible to look at, especially for a team that had a lot of drops last year. That's going to lead to some balls getting popped in the air, things like that, or not coming down with contested catches, which may lead to an interception. Now, Herbert did lead this team to 5 game-winning drives, and for that, it normally consists of your offense has to have the ball, and you got to lead them down within the last 5 minutes of the quarter. It's something like that, and score to take the lead or take a tie. That's what the rules are for a game-winning drive. He had 5 of them. This is from PFF, so this is not just like me saying, oh, he had 5. It's actually a statistical thing. 5 game-winning drives, as well as his rushing side of things. He did very well. 302 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Not like incredible. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't need to be when he has an arm like he does. So for total yards, he has 5,326. And for touchdowns, he had 41 total touchdowns, which is all very, very good numbers. And like I said, he was right there. He was, I think even at the end of the year, he was top 10 in MVP candidacy votes. Obviously, he fell a lot when you have a 9-8 record. That's something that is important. Not the most important, but is important, because to be the most valuable player on the entire league, especially for your team, it normally means that the team's doing very well. And you can have one player that does incredibly well, even though the team doesn't. And for a quarterback to do incredibly well without the team doing bad is kind of hard to do. It's very hard for a quarterback to do extremely well and not have the team overall do very well. But I will say Herbert did not deserve to win this. But there is some statistics you could point out that could say, oh, it could have been Herbert and stuff like that. Like the fact that he was number 2 in passing yards, number 3 in touchdowns, which is more than Aaron Rodgers in both statistical categories. But if you're going to make the argument, then you have to make that same argument that Tom Brady deserved it more than Rodgers. And I'm not here to say that Rodgers didn't deserve it or who did deserve it, things like that. I just know that I see a lot of people saying, hey, Justin Herbert could have won the MVP and he probably should have. And I see that in the Chargers communities. I just want to point that out. Rodgers won it. That's what it is. Doesn't matter who you think should have won it. He didn't win it. So I just kind of want to get that out there. But next thing we have is the comparisons to former MVPs. Last year, obviously, as we all know, Aaron Rodgers won it. 2021-2022 season, Aaron Rodgers wins it on a 13-3 record, 4,216 total yards, 40 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions, which is incredible, 41 ratio, like I said, and a 68.9 completion percentage. These are all very good numbers. Let's not get this wrong. But these aren't normal, MVP candidacy type numbers, is how I would say it. This, out of the past 4 years, this is the lowest amount of yards that an MVP quarterback totaled. It is also the lowest amount of total touchdowns. Now, he's incredible interceptions. He has lowest out of all these guys. But for a lot of these, it's the lowest out of the past couple years here. But he won it, and that's what it is. So we're going to compare it to that. Now, the year before that, 2020, 2021, Aaron Rodgers, who had an incredible year. I don't think anyone can argue about this MVP. 13-3 record, 4,448 total yards, 51 total touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 70.7 completion percentage. Still a 41 ratio touchdown to interceptions. You improve on his total yardage, and 51 touchdowns is absolutely insane. 2019-2020, Lamar Jackson wins MVP. I know that you might be a little confused why we're looking back, but it's good to compare to players that have won the award that you're analyzing, because then you can kind of get a basis on where from. So 2019-2020, Lamar Jackson, the team goes 13-2 when Lamar is playing, 4,333 total yards. That doesn't seem right, but I think it is. Yeah, he had 1,000 rushing yards and yeah, that's right. 4,333 total yards, 43 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 66.1 completion percentage. Now, I will say this was a very, very good MVP year. Some people like to say Lamar is not as good as a quarterback, but when you look at these stats, this is good. 13-2, which, I mean, if he has to start in that game, they probably win it. So you're saying 14-2, 4,333 yards, which is more than Aaron Rodgers this past year. 43 total touchdowns is more than Aaron Rodgers this year. 6 interceptions is only 2 more than Rodgers this year. So, and 66.1 percentage, which is the third lowest of these 4 guys. But a lot of people like to discredit Lamar Jackson. I think this was well-deserved, and I think Lamar Jackson has a lot that he brings to the table. He's not just a running back at the quarterback position. I think that is a terrible, terrible statement. He brings so much. You have to scheme an entire defensive setup when you face this guy. That's a prime example of a guy being very good at his job and at his position. He well-deserved it. A little bit of rant there. 2018-2019, Patrick Mahomes wins this. The team goes 12-4, 5,369 total yards, 52 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and 66%. This was an incredible year, incredible MVP year. But let's do a little comparison, like I said, of Herbert last year, and I expect Herbert to do similar numbers this year. I'm not going to predict. Actually, I'll probably predict a little bit at the end here, but say that Herbert had these exact same numbers this coming season, and the team, let's not look at record for this moment. Not because the record's not important. I think record is important, but I expect Herbert to have similar stats this next year with a better record. So that's why I'm saying let's look at the stats. 5,326 total yards. Out of the last 4 seasons, the only guy with more is Patrick Mahomes, and it's by, 43 yards total. Now, let's let it be known that in 2018-2019, there were 16 games in the season. Now there's 17. So let's take away 200. So in this position, Herbert has 5,100 total yards. That's what we'll say. Herbert has 5,100 total yards now this past season. Now compare that to Patrick Mahomes. Herbert's still number 2 out of these past 4 years compared to these guys in total yards. With 41 total touchdowns, he is in 4th, with only Aaron Rodgers this year behind him in total touchdowns. 15 interceptions would put him in last, and a 65.9 completion percentage would put him in last. So, although his total yards was very good, the rest of the stats do show that it was a little bit less subpar. Now, when you compare it to who did win this year, maybe you say it's a little bit closer. But when you look overall on about the normal statistics for the MVP of the NFL in a season, he's a little bit lower than you would hope for. So what is it going to take for Herbert to win the MVP award? Well, last year, like I said, Herbert was 2nd in total yards and 3rd in touchdowns. And those are very, very good statistics. And if you do that again, that's going to put you in a great position for this coming season to win MVP. But it's going to come down to record, as it probably did in this position. If Herbert is 12-4 or just a little bit closer to Aaron Rodgers, you could argue very well that Herbert might deserve this a little bit more than Rodgers. But with the records the way that they were, it's clear that Herbert didn't deserve it this year. Now, if he has the same statistics and this team goes 12-4, like I predict, or what was it? I guess it's not 12-4. It'd be like 12-5 or 13-4, as I did predict. I think he's going to be in a very, very good position to be an MVP candidate if he consists and stays consistent with the production they had last year statistically. So it's going to come down to record, is what I expect. If Herbert and the Chargers get 12 or more wins and he has similar stats than last year, he will likely be in a very, very good position to win the MVP of this league. In a great position. Top 3 award candidacy if he has similar statistics and has a better record, around 12 wins. And I expect him to have similar stats, if not a little bit better, because I don't expect these guys to drop the ball as much. I expect this running game to improve, which is going to take pressure off him. Now, it might lower some of his passing yards because you won't be in these tight games so much, maybe. You won't be in pressure instances at the end of the game where you have to force passes and stuff like that. But, I still think he's going to have similar numbers. And one key point that we should probably take into consideration, although the run game improvement is good news and will take pressure off Herbert, it's going to take yards away from Herbert as well. But with an improved defense, you hope to get that ball into Herbert's hands more often, which will get him his yards back. That's why I expect him to have very similar statistics to what he did this past season. Now, what it will take for him to win, I think he needs to improve his total touchdowns. At 41, that's very good numbers, but you'd hope to see him get a little bit closer to that 50 mark, which will help him a lot, and you want to see that interception rate go down. Although Mahomes in 2018-2019 only had 12, and there is one more game in this season, the rest of these guys all had 6 in these past 4 years, 6 or lower. So you'd like to see Herbert get around that 8 to 10 range, 6 to 10 range interceptions, and around 50 touchdowns. That's going to put him in very, very good position if he has the same number of yards. That's going to put him in great position to win MVP. And lastly, my last important piece of point information before we jump to my little predictions is in the last 4 MVPs, only Mahomes had more yards. We kind of covered that. And no way, and this is probably the most important point, and a point that I really want to mention, in no way can I expect this team to start and end the same way they did last season. The roster's too good for that. The start of the season is what I expected the Chargers to do last season. It's what I expect Chargers to do this season. Start very, very hot, strike iron when it's hot, and keep on rolling. But at the end of the season, after that bye week, they started cooling off. That run game was on defense, was really hurting them, and they started losing games that they probably shouldn't have lost. And that is something I don't expect to happen again, which is going to put him in good position because the wins will go up and the totals will go up. You hopefully wouldn't lose that game against the Texans like they did last year, which there you go. You add one win. Now you're 10-7. You're in better position there. Now you win a couple more games there. Raiders, you tie that game. You just stop that one rushing play. They're probably going to just let the time run out that very next play. Now you're 10-6-1. Your record's already better there. You're helping yourself in that position. And there's a couple other games there that are really, really close, and you probably could have came out on top on. And if you do that, you're putting yourself in a very, very good position to have a better record and lead to more MVPs. Now, let's do a little bit of predictions for Herbert for this next season. Justin Herbert played incredible last year. He played incredible in his rookie year. He was a Pro Bowler last year. I expect him to be a Pro Bowler this year, and I expect him to win the MVP candidacy this year. That's my prediction. I'm predicting Herbert will win MVP this year, along with 5,000 or so passing yards. Again, just right around that mark, 5,000. I'll say, I'll just say 5,000 passing yards. Just perfectly 5,000 passing yards. For total touchdowns, I expect him to have 52. I'm going to go with 52. Why do I believe that? I think the offense can allow him more time to get these balls in. We see that Staley's not afraid to make an attempt on 4th down or on tough situations and force that ball into the end zone instead of kicking a field goal. That's going to add to your totals for your touchdown, as well as the fact that Jalen Guyton and some of these other fast guys are going to have more time to get open. Herbert's going to find them more often. Mike Williams is hitting the age 27, which is the age where most wide receivers start to break out. He was playing incredible in that X position. I think Herbert's going to have 5,000 yards. I expect him to have 52 touchdowns. I'm going to say he has 12 interceptions. And that's over 10, but it's lower than 15. I think that's going to happen because he's willing to put that ball in a tough position. And he can put it in the breadbasket in a tough position, but I think it may lead to a couple interceptions here and there that are unexpected, whether it bounces off a wide receiver and goes to them, or it's just the wide receiver doesn't get it perfect, or Herbert little bit overthrow to the side, and the cornerback will end up getting to it. So I'm going to say 12 interceptions. And completion percentage, that's something that's really hard to say. I'm going to say 68%. 68.2% completion percentage. And the team, I already made my prediction. If you'd like to go see that, I made a prediction for the Chargers. Go ahead and check that out. But that's what, and total, because we do have to take into consideration the fact that Justin Herbert will run. 52 total touchdowns, I should point that out. 5,000 passing yards. I'll say 54,000 total yards. So we'll have a little bit over 400 rushing yards, which I think will most likely come down in a tough position where guys aren't open and he has to rush for that first down. those are my predictions. That was my little bit of analytic breakdown and comparison of why I think Justin Herbert will win the MVP this next year. And I do think he will. And I think he's in a great position to do so. And if you think that he's also in a great position to do so, or you think the opposite, comment down below, have a conversation with me, because I really enjoy having conversation with you guys. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like. I really appreciate it a lot. Give me some criticism down below, because I'm really trying to improve for you guys, make every video better in every way that I can for you guys. And subscribe, because I have content coming out daily, NFL, NBA, and NHL. If you guys have anything that you'd like me to cover in a video, go ahead and comment it down below. I do read every single comment. I reply to most of them, and most of the time I do actually pay attention and use the information that you guys are giving me, whether it's criticisms or video ideas. So if you have something you'd like me to cover, go ahead and comment it down below. I will look into it and see if I can make a full-length video out of that. But as always, I hope it taught you something today. Hope it made you smile. Hope it made you laugh. That something's really important to me, affecting someone else's life in a great way, and just improving everyone's life, because we all can have a great day every single day. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.
But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that